Entering the Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2022 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am picks, first look, and research. All research coming care of FantasyNational.com. If you are not a member at FantasyNational.com, shame on you, but you can rectify that. Very easy to do. Plus, you can get yourself 20% off at the same time by going to FantasyNational.com/Mayo. The visualizations that you see when I'm doing my research today are all from FantasyNational.com, so you can go do your own. At the same time, when you are remember to smash the like button to the episode, sub to Mayo Media Network, sub to the newsletter down in the description and in the comment section. Give me your first click. Who's your first guy that you are thinking of that is going to win this week at the Pro-Am at Pebble Beach? I want to hear it from you guys because it's a tough one. We'll get into why here in a second, but anyway, we'll get into that in a second. I do want to remind everyone to play in the Pat Mayo Experience DraftKings Listeners League. The link is not available as of the time of this recording, so it will not be available in the audio podcast, but when it does become available, I will add it to the video. Of course, it will be available when I do the show with Jeff on Monday or the show on Tuesday with Raza. Good crew. This week, we got a lot to talk about. It was a week of homecomings for a lot of us. Obviously, Luke List wins. That is fantastic news. Finally hit a winner, but finally Luke List wins. I felt like I should have been there next to him, hugging his family along with him. That was just terrific to see. Obviously I had Zalatoris and List, so from a betting perspective, didn't really care who won. Zalatoris actually would have been more profitable because I didn't have the each way on him. I did on List, so I would have got a win and a top five from both those guys rather than just the win and the top five from just Luke List. I'm not going to complain, though. I would trade it in every day of the week just to see my guy Luke List break through. And over on the Corn Ferry Tour, Roz's guy, Brandon Harkins, ends up with the win. He hasn't played in a regular PGA Tour event since 2019 Wyndham's Championship. And now he's back. He's going to be in the field this week. 2 top 30 finishes in his 2 career starts at Pebble Tour, at least his last 2 starts at Pebble Beach. So I'm sure Raza and I will break that down. Jeff and I will have a full recap of the Farmers on Monday's show. I don't want to get into it too much, but hey, I like this Wednesday through Saturday stuff. It was fantastic. I don't want to see it for majors or anything like that, but at least football is going on Wednesday through Saturday. I can dig that for sure. Like, I'm not really into college football, so it's not like college football is taking my eyes away. And the arguments that I've heard about it, I can get it from a ticket selling perspective that you'd want both weekend with more people available. But do they really care about that? No. What they really care about, PGA made a huge profit last year, and half the tournaments couldn't even, or 2 years ago, and they couldn't even have spectators at the event. So the gate isn't really killing them. It's all about what's going on in terms of the ratings. And I would think that although the Wednesday ratings would be very low, I would think that not going up against college football and the NFL, taking one of those off the board would probably be a pretty smart place to start if you're the PGA Tour, because you're not winning that battle. And I'm curious to see what the ratings are going to be for the Saturday round at the Farmers, because it was a great round. At one point, there was like 17 guys within 2 strokes. It was just me pacing around. I felt like Feinberg, the amount of pacing I did for like 7 straight hours. I had to call it quits, go shovel my driveway like 3 times because we got hit with a storm, the same one that hit Boston, hit us. That wasn't great news. I had to figure out a new station to watch the golf on, and I didn't want to come off as prickly, but I will say this. When I asked what station had the golf coverage on it, because my local affiliate in Boston for CBS was just doing storm watch, as if no one's ever been in a storm before. Like, what are you, snow rookies? Come on, snow happens. Even in Boston, I hate to tell you, this happens like once a year. So we don't need like dedicated 9-hour live coverage of a fucking snowstorm. Sorry about that. But at the same time, everyone's like, well, you can just stream it. Yeah, I know I can stream it. I have the streaming pass. The problem is I want to be making my bets in real time. If I have to hedge, if something pops up and an odd I don't like, I'm like 45 to a minute behind in terms of seconds when I'm watching the stream. There's a reason I have cable. It's only to watch sports. That's why I was looking for the actual TV feed, and I found it on some like jabroni Boston network, some CBS like minor affiliate. My 38 sounds great. I guess they weren't really sweating moving the golf over. Unless those people really needed to watch their reruns of Everyone Loves Raymond. Speaking of which, we're gonna have Ray Romano. That was like a cuss level impression. Ray Romano. I used to be able to do it pretty well. I'll work on that for Monday's show. How about that? My Ray Romano impression, because he's in the field at Pebble Beach. Oh, God, this tournament sucks so much. But it doesn't mean we can't win money on it, and we can go over it. Let's talk about the field this week at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Of course, we have all the celebrities, and that's really kind of pushing the envelope here. But in terms of the field, the strength is way down. The field in Saudi this week is going to be way better than the field at Pebble Beach. Obviously, Pebble has taken this spot on the calendar where the Super Bowl used to be and pushed Phoenix to a week from now because Phoenix really wanted to be going down with the ship with the Super Bowl. It's a part of the atmosphere at Phoenix. You watch Phoenix, you finish it up, it's a party, then you go to your Super Bowl party. And the ratings kind of dictate that. Pebble deserves better than this, put it that way. There's a god-awful tournament, and there's a reason that so few of the stars actually end up coming to play. The rounds are like 8 hours long because of the Pro-Am, which like makes it the Jason Day special. That's like his preferred pace of play, as we saw in that final group at the Farmers. Like, hurry the fuck up, man. Like, come on. And then he tried to rip my heart out by draining that eagle from the middle of the fairway, and I thought it was all going down because I had no Jason Day money. And the fact that he didn't make that 8-footer for par, I was like, oh my God, I fully expected him to make that. Whereas, like, I sweated every Zalatoris 3-foot putt, which, frankly, so was the broadcast. I've never heard a broadcast team do that in my life. You could hear Faldo just being like, every time that he hit it, and like the audible gasp when it went in. You got to fix that. It's funny because Zalatoris isn't a bad mid-range putter. Like, when he made that run at the Masters a few years ago, he led the field in strokes gained putting because he was making like 30-footers. Even we saw him last week at the American Express when he shot that 10-under round. It's like cut to Zalatoris from 38 feet in money, water. Don't worry about it. But apparently within like 5 feet, the guy basically turns into Luke List. And the issue for him I didn't mind his strategy on the back nine on Sunday. I actually thought it was pretty good because he knew where List was. He could see the leaderboard. He could see what was going on. Essentially, he was just like, let me hit it to 40 feet, 2-putt. His lag putting is excellent. He put everything basically in the 3-foot window, no matter where he was on the green. Like, he really had no knee knockers for pars at any point. So when you're the leader and you're protecting a lead, I think it's a pretty smart way to play. You're not putting yourself in any danger. You're not going to give up any strokes to the field, but usually he makes 1 or 2 of those like 21-footers or 30-footers or 17-footers, whatever it may be, and they just did not drop. And you can see he burned 5 edges in the final round. So, it was unfortunate for him. He probably should have won that tournament. And then you have Luke List. We always said that whenever Luke List would win, it would be, round 1 at the South Course, he gained 4 strokes putting, which was just an anomaly. But we even saw it in the final round. He went 6 under. He gained like 0.4 strokes putting. That's all he ever really needed to do. He just couldn't lose 3 in a round on the green like he normally does. And boom, team no putt turns into team kind of putt, and you have your first ever PGA Tour win. It was great to see. Like I said, I wish I was there with the gang. Just put my arm around Luke List. So proud of the guy. Now we get to see him at Augusta. He gets to sleep in his own bed at the Masters. Luke List, Masters winner? No, that's probably not going to happen, but he has the right game for it. If he could, if this putting is real, because he's been working with a putting coach, and he's like not an abject failure anymore. Torrey Pines winning this event at the Farmers, a lot of former Masters winners and guys that consistently play well at the Masters are all guys that have won at Torrey in the past. So, put Luke List, not necessarily on the short list to win, but as like top debutant. I think he's a debutant. Now, he would have played it, but he must have played now I got to look up Luke List. Of course, he's not in the field at Pebble, so having that pulled up, it just, like, Corey Connors always ends up playing well. Like, he's a disastrous putter, and he can't chip whatsoever, but at least Luke List can chip. It really did save him when he ended up, jarring it. Yeah, the Masters tied for 33rd in 2005? Oh, my God. It's been a while for old Luke List. 17 years in the making of his return. I assume he was an am at that point. Either way, he should be plenty familiar with the grass types at the Masters. I don't want to get too much into that. Here's the field at the... I'm going to redo that time code and make sure that's okay for everyone. So yeah, everyone good is playing in Saudi. Realistically, like Dustin's over there, Hovland's over there. Essentially everyone who played the Middle Eastern swing is going over. So this week, we have the defending champ, Berger, is in the field. Cantlay's back, Spieth is back. So we recall those 3 guys, plus nasty Nate Lashley from a year ago in the final group. Zalatoris and Seamus Power, Justin Rose, and don't look now, but here comes Jason Day, playing some good golf once again, former winner of this event too. So that's like the very top of the field. That is not awe-inspiring in the least when it comes to field strength. After that, you have Matthew Fitzpatrick making his first start anywhere in the world this week. He's like Carmen Sandiego, and the answer is Pebble Beach, of where he's going to play first min. Woo! Lee gets off from making his PGA debut this week, top 50 in the world. We'll see him at least we'll see him at the Players. We'll see him at the Match Play. We'll see him at Augusta. So the winner of last year's Scottish Open is here. He was T35 in Abu Dhabi 2 weeks ago. He took the week off, and now he's coming to play at Pebble Beach. And then we have the Burmista lady, Dean Burmeister, playing in his first non-major, non-WGC PGA Tour event since the 2016 Puerto Rico Open. He's played the last 2 weeks over in the Middle East, had a T55 and a T25. T25 2 weeks ago in Abu Dhabi. He was T55 over the weekend where Rory imploded on the final hole, and Vic beat Bland in the playoff. That was nice to wake up on Sunday morning to have a bit more golf to go through. I didn't have any action on it, but it was still fun to watch. I was actually rooting for Rory. It's nice to see Hovland pick up another win. That's 2 Euro wins for him, as he won in Germany a year ago too. He has the Hero win, he has the Mayakoba wins. That's 4 wins, and geez, the last 7 months for Hovland, he's up to number 3 in the world rankings. Pretty good scene for old Big Dick Vic, finally coming through on that promise. Other guys in the field, you have like Mav McNeely's going to be a super popular play this week, obviously. Mac Hughes, Tom Hoagie, Mito Pereira, Aaron Rye, Bezadenhout, Cameron Tringali, Lonto Griffin, Joel Damon, Ryan Palmer, Brant Snedeker, Lucas Glover, Chris Kirk, Cameron Champ is back in the field, so Cameron Champ, if you go look at his numbers from last week at Torrey, I think he ended up losing like 4 strokes putting or something ridiculous like that. And I'm pretty sure it was all of his negative in terms of strokes gained putting last week all came at whatever the first hole was of the day, whether it was 1 or 10. He like 3-putted one of the greens. I think he 4-putted one of the days. Like, it was ridiculous, the starts that he was getting off to. Did not expect that in the least. No Phil this year at Pebble Beach either. I guess his buddies from KPMG didn't want to fork out the $40K in order for him to play this year. So, yeah, guess we don't need to see Phil. He won. It was before his win at the PGA Championship. Pebble Beach was the site of his previous win before that. Let's jump over to fantasynational.com, though, and check out the courses for the week, because there are 3 of them. Yeah, they canceled the Pro-Am last year. They canceled Monterey Peninsula, and it was actually entirely more watchable on the television feed because I didn't have to get serenaded by, the hell's that guy's name? Jake Owen or Clive Owen, or whatever the hell that country guy's name is. Jake Owen, that's most definitely his name. I didn't have to hear stand-up from Larry the Cable Guy. Konica Minolta Vision was not required for Macklemore's swing for me last year. Didn't have to suffer through any of that, but that's back this year. Oh, I can't wait for Saturday. There's like no shot link. There's no shot link at Monterey Peninsula or Spyglass Hill. There's basically one camera there as well, probably going to follow around some of the leaders. So let's talk about Pebble Beach, because that's one where we have all of our strokes gained data from. It's a bit lengthier this time around. Actually, no, it's actually down from last year. 6,972 yards. Poana greens. Finally, it occurred to me that it's not too early in the morning for me to figure out how to say it. It's going to be called Poa from now on, now that I nailed it coming out of the gate. It's par 72. It is, listen, it could play as easy as the other 2 courses, but it could play way harder. It all depends on the wind that day. It's not a hard course by and large. You can see that the eagle rate is only high on number 6. If I was going to stack for DraftKings Showdown, it probably wouldn't be at Pebble Beach if I was going to do a course stack, but you could theoretically make an argument that you want to course stack each of the 3 courses and divvy up your lineups that way, because you guys go low at Pebble Beach. It's sort of like the South course at the Amex. If you not South course, the Stadium course at the Amex a few weeks ago. Is that if you catch the South course or the Stadium, fucking losing my mind over here. South course, Stadium course. The Stadium course, the Pete Dye track at the American Express. I mean, it can play just as easy as the other 2. It's just historically the scoring average is a little bit lower because there's more punitive damage for you, and there is the same at Pebble Beach. Although you could see the top 4 on the leaderboard. It's not like last week where if you weren't stacking the North course, you were just a complete moron. I don't know what you were doing. After day 1, I think it was like 47 of the top 55 guys all played the North course. So like there was a distinctive split between those 2. Between these three, not as much. Like, listen, none of them are overly hard. They could play hard. Spyglass is protected by trees. So if it does become super windy, that's usually the place you want to go to. Although Pebble, by the way, has the smallest greens on the PGA Tour, 3,500 square feet. All of these are below average. Spyglass is around 5,000, and Monterey Peninsula is around 6,000. But you can see the eagle rates for some of these. We have some doubled up numbers here, just based off of some of the changes over the years. I'll get Moose to clean that up before we go through it, but Spyglass plays as a 7,041 yard course, par 72, and you can see with the eagle rates that are up there. You have two of them where you can really attack from that end. Hole number 7 and hole number 11 is the way that we're going through it, and then we have Monterey Peninsula converted to a par 71, getting rid of it had 5 par 3s and 5 par 4s. There are only 4 par 4s. Number 18 was converted into a par 4 a few years back when we saw it. Where's Monterey Peninsula at? I mean, Monterey Peninsula is probably the one that you want to go after, but like I said, you can kind of make a case for anything. Do I have to get Moose to clean this one up too? This one actually looks pretty good. How is the eagle rate for this? Yeah. So 16 and 10 both have over a 4% eagle rate. Like, you can just pile up DraftKings points so well when it comes down to that. Like, especially in Showdown when eagles are worth so much more. Just giving yourself more outs in that regard is pretty huge. Starting on number 10, it's no real difference, although you can see that 7, 8, and 9 at Monterey are the toughest of the bunch. They all play over par. Number 1 plays over par, and so does the new number 18. As you can see, that's no longer a par 5. The number 18 is the par 4. 18th, which is 381 yards, plays to a scoring average of 4.1 from what we've seen. But when we just look at birdie rates and eagle rates, I guess that's the old number. It's not 100% birdie rate, but all the par 5s play significantly below par. 2 of them you can reach into, make pretty easy eagles, and that's available for almost all of the players in the field. Let's take a look at last year's results. And I don't know how much this is necessarily going to correlate, only because it's a lot like the American Express last year, where we dropped La Quinta from the course rotation because there was no Pro-Am, and we got to play 3 rounds at the stadium course because of COVID regulations. It obviously switched back to the 3 courses this year. The same thing with Pebble Beach. We dropped Monterey Peninsula from the fold, and now, we got a pretty good result at the top. Like, those are some names at the top that we can go with. Daniel Berger ended up winning. I recall when Patrick Cantlay was 10 under after the first round, and everyone thought, there's no way that Patrick Cantlay could lose. Guess what? He didn't win. Same as last week. There's no way that Jon Rahm could lose. It's so hard to close out tournaments. I feel like people forget that. And yeah, I think if you run the simulation like 100 times from Sunday, Rahm probably wins like 33% of the time, which is an absolutely astonishing rate. Like, he played like absolute trash Saturday at Torrey Pines, and he still almost won. And that was like a C- performance from Jon Rahm. If he just has his regular like C+ performance, he likely walks away the winner, probably without a playoff at that. So, that's the reason why the guy is the number 1 in the world. But big favorites, even in golf, weird stuff happens. There's a reason that these guys, unless you're like comparing anyone to Tiger, is so ridiculous. And I think that Tiger has really skewed this for everyone because of the dominant win rate that he had. No one else has had that in the history of golf. At least, I guess Sam Snead, like 70 years ago. But like, Tiger is such an outlier. Comparing anyone to the results that he has is stupid. And it's not indicative of what's actually going on. It's like when you look at Rory the past few weeks over in the Middle East. Like, yeah, he didn't close both times. Should have closed. And you know what? The good players put themselves into contention more often, and you notice it when they don't win because they're always there, and it feels like they're constantly gagging it away. The issue is that it's just really hard to win in any golf tournament, especially at this level with the fields being so deep right now in terms of talent. Like, you have one off day, one bad thing doesn't go right, and boom. All of a sudden, you're not winning. You're T3. So I wouldn't worry too much about Rahm, by the way. He's still, like, very clearly, he's the best player in the world right now. And there's no real debate on that, just based on the dominant performances he has week after week. It's just funny that he hasn't won since the U.S. Open. It's kind of astonishing, to tell you the truth. I think since that win, I think it was Daniel Rappaport tweeted it. I think it was him. But like 35 guys have finished ahead of Jon Rahm in the past 12 tournaments. So he's there every single week. He's just not closing it out. The wins are going to flood in for him. he's going to average like 2 to 3 per year, which is a huge amount. Just go back and look at the amount of wins that people have over the course of their career. If you get like 2 to 3, maybe pick up one with like 4 or 5, you're going to like go to the Hall of Fame. So not everyone's a Hall of Fame golfer, especially every single year outside of a very select few. So last year was the Berger, McNeely was in second, Cantlay, Spieth, and my guy, Nasty Nate Lashley, had a big bet on Nasty Nate last year, and then he got, forget what hole it is. It was whatever the par 3 was on the back when he got trapped in the bunker, then 3-putted, and it was like, oh, there's the end of him. At least he had the good idea to finish inside the top 5 to cash a really big each way. I really liked Nate Lashley last year. So let's just go to the tournament itself. Let's go to 2021. And again, these are just from Pebble Beach. They do not include Spyglass last year, but we did have 3 rounds last year from Pebble Beach. So it's a bit more information than we're usually used to having. Let's see. Oh, Scott Harrington was not good. And neither was Joel Damon. The Goonies, Jim Konos, Phil Mickelson, all bad. A year ago, strokes gained approach leader, Shez Reavie, Cantlay, Matthew Neesmith, coming off a pretty decent week at Torrey Pines. Knox, Harmon, like this is the course with the shortest drives on the PGA Tour. Accuracy and wedges are really where you want to go. We'll get to that in a little bit as we go through the statistical model. Let's see. Oh, Kyle Stanley gained 3.2 on approach, lost 3.4 putting. It's like every other week. Good for him. Tringali, Michael Thompson playing some good golf. That was actually one of the better shoutouts that I had on the DraftKings show this week, is that don't use Michael Thompson at the Amex when he was chalk. Go back to Michael Thompson, because he had like one really horrendous round and then one really not good round at the American Express. But like he's Michael Thompson. He's not the most consistent golfer on the PGA Tour. Had some results at Torrey in his history as well. So go back to him, and then all of a sudden he has a good week and he's 1% owned. That's usually the way that you want to play these like lower tier chalk guys by and large. Although listen, List was chalk last week and he won. So, although he's more of the mid tier, not necessarily the lower tier where you would think of Michael Thompson, at least when it comes in terms of pricing. It's funny looking at this leaderboard. Like you have Tringali up there, you have Spieth up there. Reminds me a lot of that tournament that Spieth won last year, the Valero Texas Open. So if we go click on that, I know I said that was more of a comp for American Express, but just seeing a few of these names, you have Spieth up there. Tringali was leading, I think, after 3 rounds and absolutely blew up. Where did he end up finishing? 9th. Yeah, 73-72 on the weekend. Snedeker's obviously won at Pebble Beach in the past. This does really feel like a Chris Kirk week. Gary Woodland won the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach. So there are names that you can see popping up here. Ricky's made some decent runs in the past. K.H. Lee, we'll see. Woo Kim, he made a run a few years back at Pebble Beach. I believe that was the Phil year. One of the better weeks I've ever had on DraftKings was that Phil Casey year with Siwoo, because I had them all in the same lineup, and I think they were all inside the top 5. Matthew Neesmith actually performed pretty well there too. Cameron Champ, T34. We'll talk about him here in a second. I don't know if I really want to go to Cameron Champ, but he's kind of becoming a Luke Listy in that way, that if he does have that week where it does come through for him, like he's gonna win. He can close, unlike a lot of these guys on the PGA Tour. That's why he already has 2 wins so far in his short career. He has a lot of WDs and a lot of last places at the same time. Furyk's interesting because he played well at the Amex a few weeks ago. This is still a course where he can contend. Let's go back and look at 2 years ago though, when we had the 3-course rotation. 2020. Nick Taylor ends up being the winner, a wire-to-wire winner for Nick Taylor, the Canadian. Putted the lights out throughout the course of the week, and you're going to need that here. You're going to have to, it's going to be pretty low scoring, so you're going to have to make a decent amount of your putts. With these small greens, you're going to have to play well around the greens, as you can see. Off the tee matters a little bit less here because you can make it, you don't necessarily need all the distance. You can make it up through driving accuracy if you want to. We saw guys last year play out of the rough, no problem. It's an approach around the green and mainly putting week. That's like a lot of these score fests, as we saw last week. Like it was driving distance and long iron heavy. And when I ran that driving distance and 175 plus approach model, like it gave me List, Rahm, and Zalatoris. So that's just the way that it was going to have to go, I suppose. That's the way that you want to play it. And even some of the other bombers like Pendrith and Cameron Young, which I wasn't on either of them last week, but is really real kick in the nuts because I was on both of them last year at the Torrey Pines U.S. Open and didn't even think to go back to them. And I think they both missed the cut at the U.S. Open, but obviously in a bit easier conditions, they were able to come through a little bit. So that year, Let's see, Spieth still led an approach. I have a little Spieth bit to go into here because he was Andercursed last week, then got sent to the hospital with stomach pains after the first round. So I don't know if we really want to look too much into it. And don't forget, like, he was god-awful at Farmers last year as well. And then the next week in Phoenix, his entire year turned around. He started reeling off finish after finish after finish going through it. And I have a bit of info on Jordan Spieth, whether you want to be for him or against him. This week, I suppose that you can kind of put in, hey, there's Charles Schwartzel, old Chuck Schwartzel popping up, TPJ. Obviously, that was one of my bigger hits ever. Nice in-game. That's one thing you can find here when everyone is playing the course on Saturday. Generally speaking, like, all your good players are going to be playing Pebble Beach on Saturday. So they'll have the Saturday and Sunday rounds at Pebble Beach. They do that for TV purposes. So you have Spieth and Cantlay and names that people actually know playing Saturday on the CBS broadcast. So you don't have Kelly Craft and Austin Smotherman out there and people are going, who the hell are these guys? No, you have the names that you want. It's a made for TV event. Therefore, the guys that you want to see on TV are actually going to be on TV. That does mean, however, that the books are usually a little bit slow to react to what happens at Spyglass in Monterey, because it's twofold. One, there's no shot link data, so you have to kind of interpret what you see. If guys are going on runs when the easy holes are going up, is that somewhat sustainable? And you can back check how they performed at Pebble earlier on in the week, whether it's, is it going to be, because you're not going to know whether it's they're doing it all with putting or the irons are super hot. Maybe that shot link data from Pebble can tell you a little bit of information, but the books are also slow to react because it's usually a bunch of jabronis who are making runs. And that's where I caught TPJ a few years ago. I think he made like 7 birdies in a row, and he started pulling into the lead. Now, obviously, Dustin and Phil and Day and I think Rose were all up near the top of the leaderboard, but they were still posting a guy who was currently winning the tournament like 125 to 1. I was like, it's worth $10. Why not? And it saved me. He ended up winning and it left everyone else in the lurch. At least I had that out. And watching him outperform DJ on Sunday was the weirdest thing in the world. I think that was the year where Wayne had to withdraw due to being hungover on Sunday. So I don't think that DJ actually had a celeb partner going into it. So that's what's happened in the past few years. We can go back to tournament history one more time and just take a look at who has performed the best at this tournament over the years. Day, Streelman, Spieth, Stallings, and Nick Taylor are up near the top for you. Shez, Cantlay, Berger, McNeely, Knox, and Piercy have also played pretty well. Neesmith, 2 top 20s the past 2 years in his first 2 ever starts. Let's talk about my guy, Brandon Harkins, or actually Roz's boy. Brandon Harkins, 2 events ever in his career, both top 30s, coming off a win on the Corn Ferry Tour. Matt Jones has played pretty well here in the past. Brian Gay has made the cut each of the past 5 years. Like, if you're old and can putt, like, you're still live at this tournament. The Glove, top 10 in the T50. The Glove's been playing some good golf, man. Like, really good. I hope he kind of flies under the radar this week. I liked him at the Amex. He made a run, had a really bad Sunday. That happens. He ended up T33. I believe he was top 10 going into the final round, though. 5th at Sony. Had a bad century, but that's when he's up against the best players in the world. And he lost 8 strokes putting and 5 strokes on approach, then led all players at the Sony. This has more in common with the Sony and the Amex than it does at the Century. So I'd be willing to go back to the well, I think, with Lucas Glover, if the number is actually correct. Nasty Nate ended up putting up the top 5. That was after a really nice ball striking performance in Phoenix where he could not make a putt for the life of him. That's why I ended up on him last week. I could see, List just broke through. This could be the week Tringali finally breaks through. Obviously, he's playing good golf right now. His number is going to be shit, but that's just what happens. We guess the odds at the end. He's probably going to be like, anyway, he's going to be 28 or 35 to 1. That's where I would guess that he opens at. Chuck Hoffman, apparently we're going to see him for the first time this year. He's already pulled out of 2 tournaments so far. I don't know if it's been a COVID thing, a restriction thing, a back problem. You don't get this sort of information when it comes down to everything. Oh, Kevin Kisner's in the field. I didn't even realize that. Kisner could play really well here. We'll get into why I like Matt Kuchar this week. That just seems like a fun way to waste your money, right? Old guy who can still putt. Kuchar's been okay. Honest to God. 7th at the Sony, kind of putting it together. I was making some cuts, and, he's inconsistent these days. But when you take a look at what's he done at the AT&T Pebble Beach? Made the cut the last 3 turns here, did not play in this event a year ago, has a top 10 in the past. That was in 2007, so that's pretty meaningless. But for the state of his game right now, if he's ever going to make another charge, he made a charge at Sony, obviously the T7. He was in the mix for most of that tournament. He's been playing some pretty consistent golf, top 40s in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his past 5 starts. Like at this point of his career, that's not bad. And these are the tournaments where he's going to have to come through. Sony, Pebble, Amex, RSM, Mayakoba, the Wyndham. Where's Heritage on here? Is he still okay there? Even at the Valero from last year, the one I just pointed to, there's Cooch. T12, Heritage, T18. It's got to be a short course for him. It's where he can put his wedges to good use and hopefully drain a few putts. And listen, the putting's pretty good. Even on POA, he's gaining 0.35 strokes per round. So Matt Kuchar, again, all of this is going to be price dependent. And hopefully the presence of Cantlay and Berger and Spieth, and now Will Zalatoris coming off a really nice week, Day coming off a nice week, Rose coming off a nice week. Hopefully that really pushes down the people at the very bottom, because when we really think about it, take a look at the past 6 winners of this event. We talked about a few weeks ago the long shots that come through at the American Express, and there's been a ton of them, and that's why we kept pointing to it. And what does that have to do with? We don't know. Is it field strength? Is it a 3-course rotation? Is it because there's a pro-am involved? I have no idea why that's the case. I'm guessing it's some sort of combination of the both. And because it's a pro-am, and I mean, Rom kind of said it, this is a putting contest. And when it turns into a putting contest, all bets are off. You still need to ball strike pretty well. The irons have to be good. You need an element of luck. But if you're the one who's riding the hot putter that week, you can potentially win any of those tournaments. And this tournament is kind of the middle between it. And maybe it's because Pebble plays a bit more historic, and I really don't know what the reason is, because the past 6 winners, we've seen 3 guys in triple digits end up winning. Like Vaughn Taylor was like 200 to 1, Ted Potter was like 500 to 1, and Nick Taylor was 125 to 1. But on the other side of the coin, you have 3 guys below 30 to 1 who have all won. Phil won at 28 to 1, Spieth won at like 16 to 1, I think that it was. And then Berger won last year, like 14 to 1 after Dustin Johnson withdrew. Now, obviously, a lot like last year when Siwoo ended up winning at the American Express, and you saw a lot of the big names at the top of the leaderboard. They cut down on the 3-course rotation. There was only 2, and there was no pro-am, same as last year with Berger here, and we saw all the best names at the very top of the leaderboard. Now, generally speaking, because course history has played a pretty good factor at Pebble Beach in the past, that we have seen guys that historically perform well at this course perform well year in year over year, whether it's that they're comfortable playing in the pro-am setting, they're just very familiar with these greens, because it's a shorter course where putting matters and like wedges matter. Guys are consistently good at that, and some of the lesser players on the PGA Tour, talent-wise, that is, could potentially be good at those, like someone like Furyk or someone like Brian Gay. They still possess that one skill set, and where driving distance means so little at this event that they can make up for that if they run hot with the putter that week and hot with the wedges. So you can see both sides of the coin when it comes to your super long shots and then your overall favorites. And maybe it's because of the field type and the type of players that this particular event actually attracts. So that it's that middle range where nothing really comes through. And I thought that was just really interesting. So with the card this week, I'm guessing it's going to be like 3 guys less than 35 to 1, and then 4 or 5 bombs from 100 to 1 and beyond. And we're going to try to see if we can figure out who those guys are going to be. So let's jump over to the research in the model this week. Let's talk about, I don't know, let's find out who we're going to talk about. Kuchar is one I had identified pretty early on that I still think possesses the proper skill set. But again, I don't know. I was really hoping the odds would be out on a Sunday for this already, because, you know, I have a bunch of cash in my account now, and I really want to go waste it. And they're not letting me. Get on top of it. I have money to waste, and you don't want to take my money. That's not good. So here's the model this week. What I went with, I adjusted a little bit before I started the show. Strokes gained approach 30% off the tee, 5% around the green, 10%, because you do need to save yourself here with these smaller screens at Pebble, and you got to play it twice. Par 5s, 10%, 350 to 400 yard par 4s. There's a ton of them across all 3 courses. 10% opportunities gained, 5% proximity, 100 to 125, 10%, proximity 125 to 150. 10%. Strokes gained putting, 5%. Proximity from beyond 200 yards, 5%. And hopefully that can more than make up for the par fives and some of these longer approaches that guys are going to have to try to attack some of the easier par fives. So over the past 50 rounds, I can't see it yet, but I'm guessing Cantlay, Berger, Spieth, maybe Tom Hoagie because he plays really well. Let's see. Cantlay, Power, Berger, Tringali, Mav McNeely, Bezadenhout, Chuck Hoffman, Tom Hoagie, Mito, Pereira, Shez Reavie. Then you can see Zalatoris, Lee Biota, Joel Damon, Kyle Stanley, Captain Ramius, Chad Ramey. There he is. There's also the Taylor connection here. Let's find out. We had Nick Taylor win and Vaughn Taylor win. Does that mean we should be giving Taylor Pendrith or Taylor Moore some sort of look here this week? Maybe it's a last name Taylor. Maybe it's a first name Taylor. Where's Taylor Montgomery? Who knows? Maybe you should be playing this tournament. See, Nick Taylor, though, he still pops up. Still the top player in this field on par fours from 350 to 400 yards. It's kind of jarring to see. Taylor Moore is actually quite good at that. Let's bet Taylor Moore. Let's see if he's like 200 to 1 or something. How has Taylor Moore been playing? I know he was hot coming off the Corn Ferry Tour. Miscut at the Farmers, 67th at the Amex. Was top 10. Okay, top 10 at the RSM. It's a course that kind of fits a lot like this. Anderson Farms, another shorter course, T17. I mean, man, if you can only play the Memorial Health on the Corn Ferry Tour every single year, or the Rex Hospital event, then we'd be looking good. Maybe it's more of like a top 10. Maybe we go with Taylor. We play the Moore connection, and we play the fact that he's actually pretty good on these shorter par fours, and we have seen some spike performances from him on some of the shorter courses. Do we want to narrow the gap a little bit? Because let's just see who the top players on these short par fours are. Nick Taylor, Chase Seifert, Mav McNeely. Okay, how was Seifert a year ago at this course? I know it's Roz's boy. So let's see here. AT&T, missed the cut, T50. How was he at that Valero tournament? He was T44 last year. At least he made the cut. So things are not looking promising for old Chase Seifert. Who else is up there? Kuchar, top 5. Good enough for me. Damon, Power, badly. This isn't an alternate event, so watch out for him. Brian Stewart, when we get to the POA splits in terms of putting, you'll see Brian Stewart's name up there a lot. Kadira, Tringali, Cantlay, Joshua Creel. Creel is a good word. If you're ever wondering in doing the New York Times crossword, what a word is for what fishermen or anglers put their fish into. What's the basket called? It is called a creel. That is the 5-letter word that you are looking for to fill out that answer. Mackenzie Hughes is up here. I mean, Mac Hughes kind of fits the mold of the guy that we would want here. If we like players like Spieth, why not take discount Spieth? Maybe he could be a look too. And he actually won at the RSM in the past. You know, he hits his wedge as well. He gets hot with his putter. That's what we're looking for when it comes down to it. Very good around the greens as well. You can see that, his proximity from in close is not great, unlike Berger's, which is really good. But it's not like all of the shots are coming from there. We can take a look at the course breakdown for Pebble Beach and take a look at the average shot distribution. You can see, unlike most courses, that's why I really weight these ones up here. Lucas Glover at the John Deere actually isn't a terrible comp because you're going to see a lot of those at the John Deere Classic as well. You'd really think that Ryan Moore would have played better at this tournament over the years. But you can see 100 to 125, 22.2%, 16%. That's a lot. Far more than almost any other course on the PGA Tour when we're looking at it. Hadwin's still up there. Rose is up there. Oh, Martin Trainer on these short par fours. Maybe he can drive them all. Who knows? When we're looking at proximity. And again, this is the longer form past 50 rounds. You can sort it by any ones that you really want. Maybe we can dig into that in a sec. From 100 to 125 yards, Hoagie, Streelman, Neesmith, the Knights, who say Neesmith, Hoffman, Bezadenhout, Malnati, Cameron Percy, Tringali, Brandon Harkins. There he is. I bet you his numbers come from I saw Tom Lehman in here. His numbers go back to 2008 or something like that. Yeah, for Harkins, we're looking at the 2019 Amex when we're talking about his past 50 rounds. But at least, historically, he's hit the ball well from that range, and he is coming off a win in the performances at this. Bezadenhout, oh my God. 2 in strokes gained putting, first from 125 to 150, 5th. Oh God, it's another stupid Seabez week. That's not going to go well. His off the tee is trash, but that doesn't mean as much here. As long as he can just keep it in the fairway, he doesn't have to hit driver. So don't mind that. Oh, Grayson Sig. Here we go. Smotherman. Jude Deloitte gave him to me at the Amex, so I put Smotherman top 20. I put him into my DraftKings lineups. He was shit And then I didn't put him back in a week ago, and he was really good. So, that sucks. So, Austin Eckrat. Maybe this is finally the week we can get something out of him. So, the best guys from basically 100 to 125 when we consider both areas, Hoffman and Neesmith are both pretty good. Bezadenhout's elite. Percy's elite. Knox is elite. Eckroat, whatever. He's elite. Kadira is elite. Anyone else up here? Jimmy Walker coming off a nice finish. He's pretty good. Kyle Stanley, pretty good. Obviously, we know that Jimmy Walker has won this event before. Max McGreevy, another player who is up there. Only 23 rounds of data, but this is sort of his key range. Then you have, 4chan Kim. There we go. He's top 40 in both those numbers. Damon is top 30 in both. Where the hell is Cantlay at? Cantlay. No, he's outside the top 45 in both these, although everywhere else he's an absolute stud, so that makes a lot of sense. Where's old Spieth these days? Spieth, awful from 100 to 125. But again, I'll do my bit on Spieth towards the end. Let's just run it for past 24 rounds and see what we come up with here and see if it gives us a little bit of a different number. We can run the rolling report as well. You can find that in sample size under rolling report if you're ever curious and want to get a ranking perspective of past 4 through 100 rounds. See if people are trending upwards, people are trending downwards. Zalatoris is actually the best in this category as of now. Hoagie, Roseberger, Percy. Trust me, as someone who bets Cameron Percy like first round leader a lot, this 135 in putting. Sorry, that's Berger. 110 in putting. That actually feels like an improvement for him in a lot of this stuff. You'll figure that out real quickly when he starts missing 4-footers for birdie. And you're like, oh my God. And it's gotten worse recently. His past 5 events, he's averaging almost 2 strokes lost on the green per event. And that's with gaining 2 at the Sony. Good God, man. Like, this is a bad stretch. Honda through the Travelers last year. Oh. Minus 3.5, minus 4, minus 3.1, minus 3. And he's missing the cut in most of these. Oh, dear God. But the approach is really good, though. Maybe he can Luke List himself into something. Hire a putting coach, and all of a sudden he can find himself in the winner's circle. Who knows? Tringali and Bezadenhout continue to go up. Mark Hubbard. Got to text his brother to figure out if this is really a great tournament for him or not. We can go look at his course history. But I actually did the research on this and made, for the newsletter when it has some of the information in it, I looked at the best POA putters per round with at least 10 rounds of putting on POA over the past 3 years. And Mark Hubbard comes out inside the top 10 in that number. We know he's a good putter. Apparently, this is his preferred putting surface. That and bent. So yeah, you can see it. It's reflected in his putting numbers right there. He putted poorly at the Farmers last week. He was the last man in the field after WD when Charlie Hoffman ended up withdrawing. Let's see how he's played at the AT&T. Not well. You'd figure this would be a good tournament for him, to tell you the God's honest truth. I might have to go to him here, though, because I feel like he lights up Birdie Fest, and we'll figure out how that goes. Yeah, I mean, he's not bad. He's top 50 over the past 24 rounds in the key approach ranges. In the beyond 200, he's actually quite good in that, too. So I guess that's why he comes out as number 8 in the model. Cantlay, Knox, Seamus. Harkins is still number 24. Mav, Von Taylor. Oh, good. I mean, he has one here. So David Hearn, Mito. Putnam is a player I really like this week. As you can see, Putnam is starting to round back into Putnam for him. He's kind of like low rent Matt Kuchar is the way that I would describe Andrew Putnam. At least that's always the vibes that I got from him. 27th at Sony, 14th at the Amex. He's, the driving is not good, but again, that's not the end of the world here. Approach around the green, putting, he's gained in all 3 in each of his past 2 events. We'll see how he's played here. He's made the cut his past 2 turns, hasn't been great, but this isn't somewhere like guys can pop, put it that way, at this tournament. If you continue with your hot putting weeks, putts really well on POA as well. He's another one that we can see kind of going forward. 10th in opportunities gained, despite not being great from 100 to 125, top 10 in 125 to 150. So let's take another look at the 350 to 400. Like if I was building a like mixed condition model this week, I'd probably want to look at 350 to 400 yard par four scoring over like the past 100 rounds. Because obviously when you're dealing, like not that many courses have holes from this length. Some have a bunch, some of them have none essentially. So you kind of have to pick and choose. So the data that you're getting might not always be the best. It might be very temperamental if they played an easy course versus a hard course. At least over the past 100 rounds, you can kind of filter out. You should basically get a good mix of hard versus easy and with different looks at different holes of that length rather than past 24 rounds. Like, where are these ones coming from? I don't know. Let's see. Farmers, Amex, Sony. Like, he was bad at the RSM. He was bad at the Sony on holes from this range. At Mayakoba, Bermuda, and the Shriners, the swing season, he was really bad. But he was really good at the 3M. I bet you he was really good in Houston, too, the week where he almost won. So it can be kind of picky and choosy when you come down to that. If you go past 100 rounds, you're looking a lot better. But, we're still just trying to find names that pop out to us. So Trainer keeps popping up. I still don't love him because he is still ranked second in putting based off like one really good performance. Zalatoris, Ben Crane, Alonto, Mac Hughes, Kuchar, Seifert, Nick Taylor, Cantlay. So at least we're getting into Taylor Moore. Continues to go up that list. Cameron Champ is now up there as well. Kadira, again, Lipsky. I thought Aaron Rye would actually be up there too because I actually had interest in Rye. I think this tournament weirdly is better for him because he's going to hit like every fairway and very good with the opportunities gained. Not great from the key ranges. He's a very poor putter as we ended up seeing. And listen, man, the pressure got to him on Saturday. His first like real appearance. But this guy is a 2-time DP World Tour winner. Although that Nick Faldo couldn't figure out who he lost to or who he beat in the playoff at the Scottish Open. I feel like he kept saying Ian Poulter, although the answer to that question is Tommy Fleetwood. Either way. And he's a classier player in terms of talent than I think that people realize because the first exposure many got to Aaron Rye was last week. Like most people had never heard of him. Cust asked me who this guy was. I was like, oh man, that's Aaron Rye. That's why people need to tune into the DP World Tour Picks and Bet Show with Skylar Hoke and Tom Jacobs Monday evenings on Mayo Media Network. They've been pretty hot. They did not have Big Dick Vic this week, but they did have Thomas Peters a week ago. Jeff and I fucked that up, by the way. The corollary event was actually this week's event, which would be now Vic for the Masters, not last week, but we got that Thomas Peters money in already, so let's go. Peters actually played well outside of the third round last week in Dubai. He was 5 over. He went from 6 over to 1 over, but then he was 5 under on the final round to get himself back to 6 under. So he finished inside the top 20 once again, coming off a win, and I've seen him play well at the Masters in the past. Zalatoris at the Masters, he's going to be a really popular ad after this week, and it's really hard not to like him there. That just gets the way that he struck the ball on Friday's round was just so immaculate, and the shot shapes that you saw, I'd be like, man, those are Augusta shot shapes, especially on those long par fives. It feels like he is going to dominate the par fives at Augusta National for like the next 20 years based on the way that he strikes the ball, and he's only getting better. He's only getting longer off the tee. He's only putting weight on. I mean, I didn't need to hear that he added an inch to his driver like every third drive that he had. Either way, it was nice information to know in case you missed it. But the kind of torque that he puts in, we forget that he injured himself at the Open Championship last year. Maybe that's why he was garbage coming down the stretch. Who knows? Key proximity ranges from this time period: Hoagie, Hollywood Hoagie, Landry, Davis, Riley. Okay, Streelman, David Hearn, Damon. We got Jimmy Walker up there again. Smotherman, Eckroat, Bezadenhout, Neesmith, the Sigmund. It's funny because Jason Day is not popping up on any of these. I guess he would pop up on the 125 to 150, but you could just bet Rose and Day this week and probably feel pretty good about yourself based on their history at this event, based on what they did last week. It seems like they're returning to form. Curious to know what their odds are going to be because they're going to be overvalued, but they're not going to be higher than the guys at the very top of the board here. In terms of like the Cantlays and Burgers. So maybe you can catch a pretty decent number. Eckrat's just popping up everywhere. Don't know how I feel about that. Oh, T-Dunks. Feel like he had a run a few weeks back. Smalley, Ryan Almal at any sort of wedge fest is where you want. Oh, God, go good. Grayson's in the field. Maybe Kevin L can lip him again. Fuck you, Grayson. Kadira, Harkins, Bramlett once again. Maybe this is one for Bramlett after he ended up rallying to make the cut a week ago. That's good news. He played well at the easier course. That's good news because these are all easy courses. The man of many question marks, Johnny. He will be off Bramlett this week. They're off the Bram wagon after jumping on for 1 week only. Putnam is up here as well. McGreevy again. Lee Hodges, we just saw him in the final group at the American Express. Jimmy Walker ended up coming. Oh, he must have had a really terrible day, man. It's all. I want to take a look at his splits from the Farmers in terms of. No, I want to look at proximity gain. Where's old proximity gained? And take a look at Jimmy Walker. He was still good from that one range, not a huge disaster from like super in close. All right, not terrible, not the end of the world for old Jimmy Jim. Oh, there's Martin Trainer again. All right, so we've taken a look at that in terms of the actual modeling for the week. Let's jump over and try to just look at some very specific type stuff. And I don't want to go too deep into it, but I want to take a look at 2022, 2021, 2020, and 2019. So we'll factor off the last 3 seasons and try to look at what we have in terms of just this course in particular. So let's take a look at less than 7,200 yard courses. So the course-specific numbers that we want to look at. Strokes gained total over that time. Cantlay, Berger, Power, Hoagie, Day, Mav, Tringali, Hoffman, Sink, Mac Hughes, Rose, Spawn, Ohio, Denny, McCarthy, Johnny, and Ekrat. That's what I was going to look at. I was going to look at his numbers. Let's see here. Miscut, 22nd, 35th, 16th. I mean, the guy's going to be a player. We all kind of really feel that. I don't know if this is going to be the spot for him or not, but again, it'll all depend on his odds. Ryan Palmer is an interesting one because he's going to rate out really well this week, especially coming off a good week at Torrey. He's been like piss poor at this event over the years. I don't know what it is. You'd think that it would go pretty well for him, but it hasn't. Oh, yeah. And is what I'm looking for. Miscut, 41st, miscut, 32nd. That's AT&T National. That's not this event. Miscut. 29th, 70th, miscut. Just he's never really had it here. There was one player I did want to highlight, though. And we'll see him when he pops up here. Old Nick Watney. Not going well for him. He does have a second at this tournament. Obviously, he's not prime Watney. But it does feel like the things that he does well, putting on POA, he could somewhat make a run here. I think that I'm going to play him as like a top 20 this week, maybe as a very low guy in a lineup, just because I think he's got the feels for this course. That's a gut play from your boy, Pat Mayo, as Nick Watney. Maybe he can be the new Bo Van Pelt from Palmetto last year, Nick Watney. So those are all the top guys. You can see like Day is up there, all the guys that you would expect. Bezadenhout, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Matt Kuchar, all inside the top 25. And you also have Cameron Champ, who I guess plays well at these shorter courses. We see tee to green numbers. You got Berger, Cantlay, Palmer, Svensson, Chris Kirk. Anyone else make a precipitous jump here? You can just basically tell by the putting numbers. Stanley makes a huge jump. Knox and Hum make a huge jump. Paul Baljean ends up making a pretty big jump. Chez Reavie, Novak, Harkins, Ryan Moore. So, okay, so we have that. That's just from the past 3 years on courses of less than 7,200 yards. Let's take that out. And now let's go to POA. Poana Greens, 2 for 2 in pronouncing it properly. It just looks so weird when you look at it spelled out, that there's no way that it could be pronounced like that when you merge the words together. But hey, here we are. So I was talking about a little bit average on POA Greens, putting wise. So you have Ramey at the top, but he only has 3 rounds over the past 5 years. Then you have Kuchar and McNeely, over a stroke per round on each of them since 2019 season started. That's pretty good. You have Mark Hubbard in 21 rounds. We can even sort this by all rounds if we want, but we'll just take the past 24 because we have a cap on the year, so it's not going to go past 2019 for any of us. Like Tom Lehman only has 1 round. We put in all rounds, he has like 5,000 or something like that because it's going to go back to like 1950 or something. Blixt is shockingly up there. So is Wyndham Clark and Bryce Garnett and TPJ, Ted Potter Jr., Stumanji, Brian Stewart, Andrew Putnam, all above 0.5. If we go look at who the worst are, Joshua Creel, that's only 1 round. Mullinex, Garrigus, Svensson all have more than 12 rounds. Harkins, oh no, and Grayson Murray are also down at more than a stroke per round lost. Taylor Moore only has the 1 round. I'll give him a pass on that one. Oh, Matthias Schwab is playing too. Good for him. Bo Van Pelt, there's my guy. 14 rounds. He's been pretty brutal. Damon Haas. Trying to find the guys that you might consider betting. There's Killa Keith, McCumber, Stanley. They're all pretty terrible. Warinsky's been really bad. So has Champ. But I think a lot of that has to do with what he did last week, to tell you the truth. There's Bramlett. He has not been good. The Burgoonies. Hey, you guys. Not great. And then we're down to like 0.3 per round. That stuff can flip. But Zadenhout's worst putting surface has been POA over the years. So if we look at POA and we look at, what else do we want to look at here? We can click off POA. Oh, another thing that you can look at too, just to kind of weight the rounds a little bit, is you can look at rounds gained. I don't normally click on that, but this can give us a different option because that just proves consistency. Because maybe someday someone just dummied the field in putting. So you'll see Matt Kuchar in his past 24 rounds on POA putting surfaces, he has gained against the field 88% of the time. Wyndham Clark, 80% of the time. Brandt Snedeker, 80% of the time. Putman, 75%. And that's only 7 rounds for Brett Druitt, but he's at 75%. Mav is at 71%. So is Jason Day. Seifert's up there. Berger's up there. Stewart's up there at 66%. You have, let's see, where is it? Snedeker at almost 80% along with Wyndham Clark. So that's a different way that you can sort the numbers to see how they're actually doing against each of the fields. And that shows a bit of consistency. How do they do that day against everyone else? Were they in the top half? Were they in the bottom half? That is all that this is telling us. Putnam's making the short list for me this week. Putnam, Cooch, Taylor Moore. Again, I'm going to need the numbers on these guys, but those are kind of the 3 that have kind of hopped off the page to me already. McGreevy, 1 for 1, 100%. We'll see what he's at. McGreevy. I'm guessing that like Moore Moore's been overvalued in the markets. I'm hoping we can catch like at least an 80 on Putnam and Kuchar, hopefully 100. Then you get McGreevy at like 200, 250. Maybe Taylor Moore at 200. I'm not quite sure how the markets are actually going to have him this week. But that's a bit of a different way that we can look at this. What else do we want to look at? So we can have just put in less than 200 or less than 7,200 yard. Let's just see strokes gained approach. Who is the best over the past 24 rounds? Berger, Knox, Stanley, Sink, Svensson, Tringali. Let's go to all rounds. All rounds since 2019. Give us a more macro view of what's going on with some of these numbers and see if there's anything that they can tell us. And again, this is less than 7,200 yard courses. Stanley, Glover, Knox. I'm throwing Glover onto that short list as well. I'm guessing he's going to be like 60, 75 to 1 somewhere in there. Streelman keeps popping out. Has Streelman played yet this year? Did he play last week? He did play last week. He was T39 last week, and he played at the Amex. Okay. He was actually pretty good at the South Course last week for someone who just primarily hits a lot of fairways. He does his best work at these shorter courses. Wyndham. He played well at the PGA Championship, mind you. Young gun, Kevin Streelman, according to Tim Andercast. Just not thinking about that he's 40 years old. But AT&T Pro-Am, pretty good. Made the cut at the Heritage, made the cut at the Honda. Those are both shorter end courses. Okay, we can get behind them. It's something to work with. At least. Oh, good. Ryan Moore is up there. Let's put him on like the auto ban list. Doc Redman. We had a Doc Redman sighting last week. I don't know how that happened. 25th at the Farmers. The approach was back at the South Course. I don't know where that came from. Don't know how that's working for him. But short courses, Palmetto, Byron Nelson, Bermuda, missed the cut at the Farmers, did not play this event a year ago. 3rd at the Wyndham, 3rd at the Fortnite. So, okay. Historically, this is the type of course where he has played pretty well. So, maybe we can get behind it. There's Putnam. He's still inside the top 20 in strokes gained approach. Hoagie, Palmer, Damon, Sink, Sig. All right, Sig, short list, Sig. Okay, you force my hand on that one. Dylon, woo! Okay, can take a look at him. So I think we've done enough here. Seabez, it's all going to depend on Seabez's odds, I think. I was pretty high on him. I bet him at the Amex and at Sony because I thought that he fit those courses well. I think that he fits this course well. 17th, 40th, he just really hasn't had that putting week that we're looking for in terms of winning us a tournament. 6.5, 4.9, 7.2. Like, he has these huge putting performances. We just have not seen those so far. Any of his past 4 starts, past 4 starts. We just haven't seen, the 5 strokes game putting. If we can get that this week, maybe going back to Seabez isn't the craziest idea in the world. Again, this is all going to be price dependent. If he's 25 to 1, I'm not betting Christian Bezaden out. If he's 55 to 1, probably going to bet Christian Bezaden out. It's funny how all that ends up working out. But it's time for us to guess the odds. I was hoping you're going to be able to fact check me on this one pretty quickly, I think. So let's try to think through. We know who the top guys in the field are. I'm going to write them out on the sheet in front of me here. So you got Berger, the defending champion, Mr. Strokes Gained Approach coming into this tournament, and Cantlay. Those are going to be your 2 favorites. Then you got Will Zalatoris and Spieth, along with Day and Rose. Power is going to be up there. Kisner is probably going to be up there. McNeely most definitely is going to have overinflated odds, probably for good reason this week as well. Seabez, Tringali is likely to be high coming off a pretty good week. I'm guessing that's going to be it. Expect Brandt Snedeker's odds just not to make any sense whatsoever, just because it's Pebble Beach and he's been building a little bit of buzz, although he missed the cut at Torrey. Fitzpatrick should be pretty high on that list, and Min Woo Lee will be up there too, although it is Fitz's first start of the season. So I'm trying to think back to last year. I think Cantlay ended up going off as the betting favorite after DJ withdrew. I'm going to say Cantlay 10 to 1. So I don't know if he has the respect yet to breach that 10 to 1 barrier. Although in a field like this, maybe he can do it. So Cantlay at 10 to 1, Berger at 12 to 1, Spieth 14 or 16. I'll say 16. Will Zalatoris 16. I'm going to say Day 22, Rose 22, Power 25, Kisner 35, McNeely 28, Tringali 28, Fitz 25, Min Woo, because Americans don't know who he is, 40 to 1. So that would leave the top of the betting board, at least in terms of my guess of what the books are going to open at. And again, we've seen this week after week. Do not hop on any of these top numbers when the odds get released. Give yourself 12 hours because they've all fallen throughout the course of the week outside of like 1 or 2 guys. If you know it's listen, if Matt McNeely opens at 45, he's going to be 25 within 2 hours because everyone is going to bet him. But if he opens at 28, you might end up with a 33 by the end of the week kind of thing. It all depends on where that opening market is. And it seems like the books don't want to get taken early with a bad number. So they're just going to give you the worst numbers possible Sunday night, Monday morning, whenever they decide to release it. And by Tuesday morning or Monday evening, the numbers are going to look a whole lot better. But right now, Cantlay, 10 to 1 is my guess. Berger, 12 to 1. They're the 2 favorites. The next tier down is going to be Spieth and Will Zalatoris, 16 and 16. I'm going to say that Day and Rose are both 22 to 1. Power and Matthew Fitzpatrick, 25 to 1. McNeely and Tringali, 28 to 1. Kevin Kisner, 35 to 1. Min Woo Lee, 40 to 1. That might be even overvaluing Min Woo Lee. We might be able to catch like a 50 or 55. I don't even know if I like that, for him, to be perfectly honest with you. But I really don't know whether or not his name actually carries weight in the American betting markets as some of these other guys do. These are not the numbers that I would want to bet these guys at, or the numbers where I think that they finish. I think that these are the numbers that they are going to open at on DraftKings Sportsbook. If you use code DOP at DraftKings Sportsbook, by the way, you get like a bunch of benefits if you don't have DraftKings Sportsbook yet. So I highly recommend that you use code DOP for our friends on the #1 UFC betting show around, the Duggar Pass podcast, which returns this week. Although we had Bellator picks last week just from Cody. Paul and Cody will return this week for the UFC betting show as well. That will do it for me. Join fantasynational.com. You can see how you can manipulate all of the stats, research whatever you want. You can generate lineups, use the simulator, have ownership projections, all for DraftKings. fantasynational.com/Mayo is where you can do that. Smash the like button to the video and hit me with your early leans down in the comment section. Sub to Mayo Media Network and the newsletter while you're at it too. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!